You are now listening to the Girl Organize That Life podcast. Coach L3.
Hi, welcome to the Girl Organize That Life podcast, where I am your host, Latimore-Lorfils, affectionately known as Coach L3. As a mother of 12, who has also served as a senior military officer for nearly 3 decades alongside my husband, I can certainly understand and appreciate who I call the 3C sisters: crazy, chaos, and confusion. If you are an executive level mom, mompreneur, or lady leader who perhaps still struggles with burnout, you have come to the right place where you can receive strategies and tips on how to pivot with poise and conquer the noise. I invite you to take this journey with us to increase your clarity, your confidence, and to conquer the overwhelm. Hope to see you there.
Coach L3.
Hey girl, hey boss ladies. Welcome back to the Girl Organize That Life podcast, where we empower executive level moms, mompreneurs, and lady leaders to pivot with poise despite the noise. And as you know, I am your host, Latimore-Lorfils, affectionately known as Coach L3. And today we're going to dive into a powerful topic that I think we all face at some point in our journey, right? This is crisis management. Whether it's in your personal life or if it's in your professional space, crises happen. And the question is, how do you handle them when they occur? That defines your strength and your success. Okay. So today's episode is all about managing crisis management. Now, what I want to say is this, how to handle unexpected personal and professional crisis with poise, with strategy, and with the right mindset is absolutely key. And we're going to talk about some of that today. We'll be talking through some real life examples. We'll go over some expert tips, and we'll give you some practical steps to help you stay calm, decisive, and in control, even when things feel like they are spiraling, because it happens. And in the spiral is when we feel like, oh gosh, we are not grounded, we are not centered. Listen, y'all know, I know firsthand that life can throw curveballs. Sometimes it's a personal emergency, sometimes it's a business crisis that demands immediate attention. And as high achieving women, we often feel like we need to handle it all perfectly. And you'll hear us throughout podcast episodes. We'll touch on perfectionism and how dangerous it really is. But ladies, let me tell you, mastering crisis management isn't about perfection. Okay. It's about being strategic. It's about being composed. It's about being resilient. It's about leaning into your faith, your resources, and your community when it gets rough, when it gets tough, because that's called life. We have this coined phrase, which I don't know who coined it, but it's all over. Life be lifing. And so in that, we're saying that sometimes there's a crisis, and how do we really handle that? So let's jump right in. Let me give you some steps and some ways and some strategies you can walk away with to help you in these types of situations. The first step to mastering crisis management is staying calm under pressure, right? And trust me, I get it. It's easier said than done. But the truth is, panic only clouds your judgment. When you stay calm, you're able to think clearly, you're able to assess the situation. And guess what? As a result of that, you're able to make more effective decisions. I tell my girls all the time, listen, when you make an emotional decision, when you make a decision out of high emotions, it's usually a recipe for a catastrophe or for a disaster. And so this is what it's speaking to. So when you're having a crisis moment, when you feeling like you're in fight or flight mode, take a deep breath, center yourself, and remind yourself that you've faced challenges before. And I've said this in other settings, when you do take a deep breath, not only are you centering yourself, but you're centering your nervous system, right? So remember to do that. Um, I remember when my son had a head-on collision, and we thought that actually we were going to lose him. And of course, that initial reaction is like, oh my gosh, you're in fight or flight mode. You are in crisis mode. And before I could get in my car to drive from my job to where my son was located, not knowing the condition he was in other than what I was told, letting my imagination run with me, not really prepared for what I was going to see, I had to instantly in that moment pause myself and say, okay, breathe, because you cannot drive in this state safely. Like, this is a real thing. Um, and so what got me through was staying rooted in my faith, though I heard tragic news, or what we thought would be a tragedy, right? And keeping a clear head, even in the midst of the crisis. It's about trusting that you have the tools and the wisdom within you to handle them. And so let's not lose sight of that, even when you're in the midst of it all, in the midst of it all. The next step, the next thing I say that you need to do is to assess and prioritize. We speak often about self-management here. I don't like time management because time is time, you can't manage it. But I do like self-management. And so you have to ask yourself, when the crisis hits, everything cannot be a 911 emergency. It's the same thing. We kind of we dialogue and we dissect it, for us military folks, where we're like, okay, everything can't be hot, we say. And so even in that, we have to prioritize, and we have to sometimes even be bold and brave and ask our leaders, after we've done our internal assessments as a staff, ask them, where would you like to assume risk? Because everything can't be in a number one slot. It's impossible. And what you do, you evoke and you induce more stress on yourself. So you have to ask yourself, what is it that needs to be handled right now? And ask yourself, what can wait, right? The key to avoiding burnout and unnecessary stress, I always refer to my own GPS system. I have a GPS system within Girl Organize That Life, a program that we have, but my internal GPS system, which I will share with the community as well, consists of guide, priorities, and structure. That helps me to discern what needs my immediate attention and what can be delegated or deferred, right? It's so important. And sometimes you have to make these assessments like real time. So, for example, if your business is facing a financial challenge, right, you have to assess the most critical areas, like paying your employees, addressing key client needs, everything else, like updating social media, fine-tuning long-term strategies. They can often wait until the storm has passed. Sometimes even in entrepreneurship, for you mompreneurs out there, we're planners and we are assessors, and we want things done, within a certain time frame. But even with that, if you are in crisis mode, you have to prioritize what is most urgent, kind of like the triage effect for an emergency room. Medical staff that will have to decide what's most urgent. If it's anything dealing with life, limb, or eyesight, those are the things that are most urgent. I also want to share a bit of expert advice from crisis management specialists. They recommend that you always have a plan B. I say this in life, period. From um, looking at a career, if the first one doesn't work out, what's your plan B? I tell my children, hey, you're in college, you're studying XYZ. What is your plan B? My son, hopefully he goes to the NFL, but I say to him, what is your plan B? And so you want to have a plan B in place before the crisis hits. That means building systems. That means building teams and strategies that can kick in when things go awry, because they will. This could be like creating an emergency fund, for example, for a personal crisis, or building a crisis communication plan for your business. That's so juicy. Even as I'm talking to you, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh, I might need to go back and think about some more things. For my mompreneurs and executives out there, having those systems in place makes all the difference. It's about being proactive and not reactive. And that's what generally happens. Something will happen and you're like, I got to get to it. Yeah, you do. But if you have plan B, even plan C, if you have a crisis management plan of sorts, that is certainly going to decrease your burnout and your stress and you being on high decibels for a long time. And the truth of the matter is, though we do it, I want to encourage everyone and remind everyone you cannot be in fight or flight all the time. It's not even good for your body and it's not good for your psyche either. So we gotta make sure we reel ourselves in. Another piece of mastering crisis management is leaning in on your support system. We're not an island out here. So when we face a crisis, especially as women, we often feel like we have to handle it all on our own. I think that's the undercurrent that we have. But remember, you are not alone, right? Reach out to your trusted network, whether if it's family or friends or professional peers, and ask for help. Oh my goodness, put the pride down. Seriously. If nothing else, let that set you free. This is where building a strong community like the one we have at Girl Organize That Life comes into play. We are building a community of women that are all struggling with something, but we're all driven people that wants to get to the next. And so we're building that community. We're forging relationships. We're forging those trusted networks where we can reach out and touch and say, hey, sis, I'm struggling with X. Can you help? We're stronger when we lean on each other. We really are. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world by yourself. Let me say it again. You do not have to carry the weight of the world alone. Okay. And finally, let's talk about reflecting and learning from every crisis. Even crisis type situations have a purpose. I know. It's probably like, oh my God, are you serious? I'm very serious. Once the dust settles, take some time to assess what happened and how you handled it. I've said this before. I've said this in master classes. I've said this in other settings. I've said it when talking to people. It's not the situation that evokes your feeling of worry or burnout or overwhelm. It's usually your thoughts about the situation that evokes your emotions. So if you want to keep yourself centered, the first thing that I always talk about that you have to get after is your mindset. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? Think about, when a crisis hits, what worked well? What didn't work well? What could you have done differently or better next time? And remember that every crisis is an opportunity for growth. I love that. You know, it's if it gets too quiet, then you might want to be like, I don't know, because that's where you grow. The stretch is in the stretching, both personally and professionally. And I can't stress this enough. It's through these moments of pressure that we build resilience and wisdom. Those are the times when we grow and we master the art of what it means to persevere. That's so good to me, just talking about it. Um, Also, when you're in crisis mode or even after crisis mode, for me, I like to reflect on my faith, my strategies, and my community that helped me to navigate whatever was going on. And I encourage you all to do the same thing. I like to get on here and leave powerful nuggets that's going to serve you and things that's going to serve you in the immediate. As we wrap up today's episode, I want you to remember that crisis will come. But remember, even when they come, you bosses, you ladies, you powerhouses, you have the power and the tools and the faith to manage them with grace and confidence. And also be reminded it's about staying calm. It's about being strategic. It's about leaning on your community and learning from every experience because every experience will yield fruit, whether you expect it to or not. You are a boss. You are a bad, audacious woman serving with excellence. Boss. And because you're a boss, there's nothing that can break you, even though you might feel like it. There's nothing that can break you. Okay. I want you to always remember that and remember the power that lies within, even in the midst of crisis. I really thank you all for tuning in to this episode of the Girl Organized That Life podcast. And if you found today's episode interesting, if you found that it edified you and that it added some insights and value to you, I really would love it if you would subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with a fellow boss that may need the same thing or could use some encouragement. And as always, stay connected with us on social media, Girl Organize That Life on Facebook, Girl Organize That Life on Instagram. And we do have a Girl Organize That Life Facebook page and group. So certainly reach out to us. And of course, you can go to girlorganizedthatlife.com, especially if you're considering working deeper with us. We're happy to assist you and help you to grow and further and electrify your bossness, right? So until next time, keep organizing that life. And remember, no matter the crisis, you've got the tools to handle it. And the best way you're going to handle it is you're going to pivot with poise despite the noise. Until next time, bye now.
Coach L3.